So the first thing you have to do is create your vulnerability management virtual machine. And it should be pretty simple. Also, make sure to set the version for a Windows 10 machine, 'cause that's what we're going to be doing in this lab. Now, when we get to the memory, it should be just 2048. Check that off. You can check that off as well. Hit it next, next. And now we're going to go into the settings portion. Everything else I'm pretty much doing in the settings portion is optional, but you can follow along. Like having things bi-directional will let you like drag things from your host computer to your vulnerable machine, or from your vulnerable machine to your host computer, and things like that. For the processor, you want to put it about half. You want to put it about half of your CPU, actually. For your network adapter, you actually want to set it to NAT network. The reason for this is because you want to connect your first virtual machine, which is the Nessus Essentials one, and your vulnerable machine together, so they can ping and communicate with each other. Now we're basically going to set up Windows 10 on this virtual machine. So for this portion, I'm really going to skip through everything. You should have a Windows 10 ISO downloaded. I'll probably show that in a different video, but for now I'm going to just show you how to install it. And I'm going to really do a time lapse just so you can see it. You can slow it down if you want to, but that's how I'm going to do it. Now that we have both VMs running, our next step should be to run the command ipconfig within the terminal. So we'll wait for that step. You will then see that we have no traffic coming through. So the next step after this is to disable Windows Firewall in order to bypass this. Realistically, in a real environment, you wouldn't want to do this because it makes your machine more vulnerable. However, for the purposes of this lab, this is what we're going to have to do. So just bear with me. As soon as we hit apply, you should then see all the replies from the vulnerable machine. This means it's been done correctly, and just wait for the next step. Our next step is to use whatever browser you'd like to use and download Nessus Essentials. Since I already have it downloaded, I'll just be showing you guys where to get it, and you guys can install it yourselves. So just wait for the next step. For this portion of the video, you will see me enter a username and a password which I created after installing Nessus. You will get the same option to do so. There should also be a product key sent to your email by Nessus for you to access the same page I am accessing as well. Then we will create new scans to conduct on our vulnerable virtual machine. The scans we will be doing for this lab will specifically be basic scans. I'll probably get more in depth with Nessus, but for now, you'll see the basic functions of it. We will then be using the IP address from the vulnerable VM and inserting it into the target section where it's asking for the IP address. Then you can put whatever name you want to call this scan. For this lab, I put vulnerable VM as the name. Then you can go ahead and start your uncredentialed scan. The scan should be done after a few minutes, and then you'll see a page where it lists all of the vulnerabilities it found. As you can see, there aren't many medium, high, or critical vulnerabilities detected, which is good to see. One of the reasons for this is because it is an uncredentialed scan, meaning it can't reach all the data in the registry like a credentialed scan could, which we will be doing next. We must then go to services and enable remote registry. This will allow the Nessus scanner to have access to the registry, which will then help detect more vulnerabilities within the system. Also, we need to make sure that file and printer sharing is turned on for this to work. All of the steps that I am doing are provided by Nessus themselves, which you can access as well. I will try to leave a link in the description below. Then for the user control settings, we want to pull the meter down to the point where it says never notify. Just as a disclaimer, you should never do this, and this is just for the lab's purpose to demonstrate how to use a vulnerability scanner to detect vulnerabilities. The last tedious step we will do is go to the registry editor and create a new DWORD named local account token filter. Then restart your machine and wait for the next step. After all of this, you can enter the username and password you made to log in for your vulnerable machine and input it into the Windows section. After everything has been configured, you can then start your basic scan, which is now a credential scan. This should also take a couple of minutes, so just be patient and wait. As you can see, once the scan is done, there are literally 2 times as many vulnerabilities that have been detected for this virtual machine. There was even a critical vulnerability detected with a CVSS of 8.8. Now I'll just browse through all of this for you to see. To make this lab more interesting, we are going to add an old deprecated software, which is Firefox. We will also be installing a very old version of it to see if the Nessus Essential Scanner can detect this. Hopefully it will. Once all of that is done, just run the scan one more time and wait for a few minutes. As you can see, it did indeed detect the old browser, and it even listed the age of the vulnerability, which is amazing. The other cool thing about this is that it provides a synopsis of the vulnerability as well. For the last and final step, we are going to attempt to remediate all of these vulnerabilities by updating and deleting and uninstalling Firefox from this machine. You will then see the results of what patching the system can do. See, most of the vulnerabilities went away. All the ones that were high, critical, they all went away. So it was fun doing this lab with you guys. Thank you.